Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're diving headfirst into a really fascinating stack of your sources.
Yeah, it's quite a mix this time.
It really is.
Yeah.
Everything from, ancient Greek wisdom to modern self-help gurus, historical speeches, leadership insights. It's all in there.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission for this deep dive is, well, to cut through the noise, connect these threads that might seem totally separate,
Right.
and pull out the most potent, actionable insights for you. Think of it like your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed.
And maybe finding some surprising connections along the way.
Hopefully with a bit of humor, too. Keep you hooked.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it, how certain truths they echo across centuries and cultures. These aren't just dusty old texts or, random historical facts. They're universal principles, just maybe wrapped in different packaging depending on the era.
Exactly.
So we'll be digging for those core nuggets of knowledge, the things that bridge different times and places, showing you how, say, wisdom from a Stoic philosopher like Epictetus.
Who we'll definitely get to.
Oh, yeah. How his ideas can be just as relevant to your day-to-day life as advice from, I don't know, a modern motivational speaker.
It's about finding that interconnected wisdom, right? Making it genuinely useful.
Giving you those aha moments without feeling like you're drowning in information.
Absolutely. And, as I was looking through these sources, I kept thinking, what lessons could Abraham Lincoln and Russell Conwell and maybe Brene Brown teach us about just navigating our daily lives, like right now?
Mm-hmm. That's the interesting part.
Or how does a speech by someone like Sojourner Truth still resonate so powerfully today?
Yeah.
We're going to explore those very connections, because when you bring these different voices together, you get a much richer, more multifaceted view of the human experience.
Ambition, resilience.
Right, the drive to influence others, that timeless search for meaning and fulfillment.
Exactly. So even though the sources are super varied, touching on persuasion, achievement, self-understanding, they all speak to these core human desires, don't they?
They really do.
The need to influence, to succeed, to figure ourselves out, and just, navigate society with some kind of purpose, maybe even some tranquility.
Yeah, tranquility would be nice.
Our goal is to sort of synthesize these voices, give you a fresh perspective, and hopefully some practical insights you can actually use.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dive in. All right, so if we want to really get persuasion, we kind of have to start at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Aristotle's rhetoric.
The foundational text.
Yeah, I found his breakdown into those three core forms just fascinating. Ethos, pathos, logos. It feels like the ultimate cheat sheet for moving people. And it still works.
It really does. It's incredibly robust, that framework.
Can you unpack those three for us? Ethos, pathos, logos. Why are they still so fundamental after all this time?
Absolutely. So Aristotle saw these as the three pillars. Let's start with ethos. That's all about the character of the speaker.
Okay, your credibility.
Right. But here's the really interesting bit Aristotle pointed out. This trustworthiness, this ethos, should come directly from the speech itself.
But just who you are beforehand.
Exactly. Not just your reputation going in.
Yeah.
It's about how you present your arguments, how you present yourself in that moment.
Right.
Think about it like a new CEO giving their first big company address. Sure, their resume helps.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how they speak right then and there, their perceived honesty, their integrity, the way they connect, that actually builds trust with that audience.
So you earn it in the moment.
You earn it in the moment. It really challenges our modern obsession with, like, celebrity endorsements or pre-existing fame, doesn't it?
Yeah, it suggests true credibility is something you actively build through your communication.
Precisely.
That's a huge point.
Yeah.
So it's not just enough to be a good person. You have to sound like one when you're trying to persuade.
You have to demonstrate it through the speech.
Okay, so that's ethos, character. What about pathos? Aristotle mentioned that speakers back then sometimes only focused on emotion. Do we still do that?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. I'd say we probably fall into that trap even more now with social media and everything being so immediate. Pathos is about putting the listener into a certain emotional state because, like Aristotle saw, our judgments are massively swayed by how we feel: grief, joy, anger, sympathy.
Emotional buttons.
Exactly. Advertisers, politicians, influencers, they often try to bypass logic completely and just aim straight for the gut feeling.
Okay.
They know if they can make you feel strongly enough, angry, excited, scared, whatever, you're way more likely to jump on board, even if the logic isn't quite there.
Okay, so we've got character and emotion. Then there's the third pillar, the one that's supposed to anchor it all: Logos,
Hmm.
the logical argument.
The argument itself, yeah.
But even within logic, Aristotle had some specific ideas, didn't he?
He did. Logos mainly takes two forms. There's induction, which is using examples to build a case,
Okay.
and then there's syllogism. But for rhetoric, Aristotle talked about something called an enthymeme.
An enthymeme.
Yeah, it's basically a rhetorical syllogism, kind of like a syllogism where one part is left unstated, implied.
Ah, so the audience fills in the blank.
Exactly. And Aristotle noticed that while examples are persuasive, these enthymemes often get a stronger reaction.
Why is that?
Well, think of it like a good joke or a riddle. The punchline hits harder because you, the listener, completed the thought in your own mind.
You feel like you figured it out.
Right. It makes you feel more involved, more invested in the conclusion. You feel clever, like you arrived there yourself. And that's incredibly persuasive.
So if you can build that trust, the ethos, connect emotionally pathos, and make logical sense while engaging people's minds with logos, maybe using those enthymemes,
Then you're not just talking at people.
you're strategically building a message that resonates on all these different levels.
Precisely.
And that is how you make your communication way more effective. Doesn't matter if it's a big presentation, a negotiation, or just, trying to convince a friend about a movie.
It's a timeless toolkit.
Okay, so from those Greek foundations, let's jump ahead to the Romans.
Yeah.
They really picked up Aristotle's ideas and ran with them, didn't they? Added their own spin.
Yeah. They absolutely did. Figures like Cicero and Quintilian, they didn't just see public speaking as a skill set. They saw it as something much bigger.
How so?
Well, Cicero, for instance, viewed oratory almost as a part of political science, or even, he said, a branch of philosophy.
Wow, okay. So not just about sounding good.
Not at all. For Cicero, a truly great speaker, an eloquent speaker, had to be a well-rounded individual, deep knowledge, strong character, not just someone who knew rhetorical tricks.
Substance over style, or maybe substance and style.
Kind of. He believed that while the art of speaking was important, you needed something more profitable to oratory than just the art itself. Meaning you had to integrate real philosophical arguments, deep understanding of subjects, broad knowledge into your speeches. He pointed to someone like Pericles in Athens.
Famous leader, right?
Right. Pericles wasn't just eloquent, he was a profound public thinker and leader. Cicero believed true influence comes from that kind of comprehensive understanding of the world, not just fancy words.
So it really is about being a person of substance, not
Yeah.
just a slick talker.
That's the core idea.
And Quintilian, who came a bit later, he really emphasized the moral side too, right?
Yeah.
Even more directly.
Oh, absolutely. Quintilian famously asserted that no man can speak well who is not good himself.
That connects right back to Aristotle's ethos, but maybe takes it a step further.
It really does. Quintilian argued that an orator's credibility is fundamentally tied to their moral character. He also got very practical.
Practical how?
He stressed that becoming a great orator starts really early, with quality education right from infancy. He actually said the earliest instruction should come from the most perfect teacher.
High standards.
Yeah, and that every man's child deserves equal attention in their upbringing, not just the elite. His advice covered practical speech stuff, too, like keeping narratives concise, in measure, he called it.
Not too long, not too short.
Right. And how to strategically highlight your own good points, or maybe your opponent's flaws, within that narrative.
Okay, so he's giving practical tips grounded in that bigger moral framework.
Exactly. The big takeaway from the Romans, I think, is that powerful communication is holistic. It demands character, deep knowledge, ethical intention. It's way more than just stringing words together cleverly.
It's a lifelong pursuit, really. Being a person of substance, having that strong character, that knowledge, that ethical compass. Wow. Okay, so let's bring this down from the, grand stages of Rome to something maybe closer to home. How do these timeless ideas apply to our everyday interactions, our personal influence?
That's where someone like Dale Carnegie comes in. His book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is still a bestseller for a reason.
Right, a classic.
He really zeroes in on the power of understanding what other people want.
So focusing on the audience's needs.
Precisely. It's like a practical application of Aristotle's pathos, but reframed as finding genuine mutual benefit. Carnegie stressed that instead of just broadcasting what you want.
Which is what most of us do.
Yeah, unfortunately. The most effective approach is to figure out how you can help others get what they want.
Okay, give us an example.
Well, Carnegie uses this great letter from a Barbara L. Anderson applying for a job instead of just listing her skills.
Like a standard cover letter.
Right. She wrote something like, I'm sure I can contribute to your growth and profit. I'll be in Phoenix next week and would love to show you how I can help your bank meet its goals.
Subtle shift. It's all about them.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that focus on their needs, their goals, it got her multiple job offers. It's about finding that win-win.
That's brilliant. And it doesn't feel slimy or manipulative. It feels like genuine understanding.
When done right, yes. It's about finding common ground.
And Carnegie himself, he practiced what he preached, right?
Yeah.
His public speaking courses were hugely successful.
Phenomenally successful. He started teaching on commission, apparently, and his classes grew like wildfire because his methods were so practical for business people.
People could use it right away.
Exactly. He wasn't teaching abstract theory. He was giving people tools to immediately improve their careers, their relationships. I saw this happen once with a colleague. They used to start every team meeting laying out what they needed from everyone. Total turnoff.
I imagine.
Then one day, they shifted, started meetings with, okay, what are your roadblocks? How can I help you hit your targets this week? The difference was night and day. Their influence just soared.
Wow. It's simple, but powerful.
It really is, and often overlooked. Carnegie's success just highlights that enduring power of genuinely tuning in to what other people need and value.
Whether you're talking to a big crowd, a small team, or just one person.
The principle holds. When you show how your idea, your proposal, whatever, aligns with their interests and offers them a clear benefit, you become instantly more persuasive.
So the big insight here. Lasting influence comes from truly understanding and connecting with what others need and value. It's not just about being clever or having the best argument on paper.
But it's about connection.
Okay, let's look at some real-world examples now. Master classes in speaking that actually change things. We'll try to pull one powerful lesson from each. Tag Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. First up, gotta be Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, delivered right in the middle of the Civil War, dedicating a cemetery. It's incredibly short, but wow.
It's breathtaking, really. What's remarkable is how Lincoln, in just, 272 words?
Something like that, yeah.
He managed to frame the entire national narrative at a moment of unbelievable crisis, rededicating the nation to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Giving meaning to all that sacrifice.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the words, though they were perfect. It was the occasion, the milieu, as William Safire points out in Lend Me Your Ears, like with Churchill's wartime speeches that intensely focused everyone's minds.
The context mattered hugely.
Immensely. Lincoln transformed a cemetery dedication into this timeless statement on liberty and equality that still resonates.
So the lesson?
I'd say conciseness, combined with profound purpose, delivered at a critical moment that can reshape history. Brevity can be incredibly powerful.
Okay, moving from a president to someone who rose from, well, the deepest depression imaginable.
Yeah.
Sojourner Truth.
An incredible figure.
Despite facing unbelievable barriers, being Black, a woman, formerly enslaved, illiterate, she was this powerhouse orator. There's that famous story of her quieting a hostile mob at a convention just with her presence and words.
Her story is just pure testament to the power of authentic conviction, raw presence.
Yeah.
She embodied, as the introduction to her narrative says, the two most hated elements of humanity at the time. Yet she had this deep insight, this ability to penetrate the very soul of the universe.
And her style wasn't polished, right? It was direct.
Very direct, very engaging. She famously said, "I will shake every place I go to." She lived that idea that a real man or woman makes circumstances and controls them.
Her power didn't come from fancy education.
No, it came from lived experience, unshakable belief in justice, and this passionate, direct delivery.
So, the lesson from Sojourner Truth.
The transformative power of just pure authenticity and conviction. Even when facing down immense adversity, your truth, spoken powerfully, can overcome incredible obstacles. #, Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Compromise.
Next, let's look at Booker T. Washington's Atlanta Compromise speech. This was really strategic, wasn't it? A call for self-reliance and action in a very tense post-Reconstruction South.
Highly strategic, and a really sophisticated piece of rhetoric for its time and place.
What was the core message?
His famous line was, "Cast down your bucket where you are." He was urging both Black and white communities, but especially Black Americans, to focus on economic progress, industrial skills, right there in the South.
Building prosperity from the ground up.
Exactly. Cooperating economically rather than pushing immediately for social integration, which was incredibly fraught at the time.
And he had that famous analogy.
Right. In all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand in all things essential to mutual progress.
Wow, that's quite an image.
It articulated a vision of economic interdependence while sort of sidestepping the direct challenge to social segregation. It was a calculated move,
A compromise, like the name says.
seen by many as a necessary compromise to secure economic opportunity and basic safety in a hostile environment.
So the insight from Washington here.
Strategic pragmatism. Focusing on immediate, tangible progress within the harsh realities of the situation can be a really potent, if sometimes controversial, form of influence. Adapt your message to the constraints you face.
Okay, finally in this section, let's jump to a modern master of persuasion, but in a very different arena. The law. Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
RBG. A true way paver, as the title of one book calls her.
Especially on gender equality. What's fascinating, in my own words, is her method. It wasn't about fiery speeches, it was about careful, consensus-building argument, avoiding extravagant or divisive decisions.
Yes, her approach connects beautifully back to Quintilian's idea of the good orator being a good person, focused on reason and fairness. Look at her Rose Garden acceptance speech when nominated to the Supreme Court. She stressed being judged as a judge, not as an advocate. She refused to prejudge cases. That showed immense respect for the judicial process itself.
Building trust through restraint.
Exactly. Even when facing really strong disagreement, like Justice Scalia's fiery dissent in the VMI case of the Virginia Military Institute case, her power came from meticulous legal reasoning, consistency, logic, not from aggressive rhetoric.
It was a long game.
Precisely. The core insight from RBG: in these complex institutional settings, real persuasion is often a marathon, not a sprint.
Makes sense.
It's built on careful reasoning, unwavering integrity, making deliberate step-by-step progress. Sometimes the quiet force is more effective than the loud noise.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about influencing others. Now let's talk about influencing ourselves, driving our own achievement, reaching our goals.
The internal game.
Exactly. And Earl Nightingale, in his classic recording, The Strangest Secret, he offers this definition of success that really, it makes you stop and think.
It's deceptively simple, isn't it?
What is it again?
He says, the only man who succeeds is the man who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal.
Progressively realizing a worthy ideal. So it's not just about money or fame.
Not necessarily. It's about deliberately working towards a goal, a predetermined job or purpose that you consider worthy. The key word there is deliberately.
Intentionality.
Yes. He uses that great analogy of a ship leaving a harbor.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
If the ship has a clear destination, a mapped-out voyage, it knows exactly where it's going.
It'll get there, almost always.
Right. Nightingale says 9,999 times out of 10,000 it'll get to where it started out to get. But a ship without a goal
Just drifts, at the mercy of the wind and currents.
Exactly. And he argues that's why so many people fail to achieve anything specific. They lack clear goals. It connects directly to that modern idea of the power of purpose, knowing your W8Y, like Simon Sinek talks about.
If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Right.
Or nowhere.
Precisely. Without that clarity, you're just drifting, hoping for the best, but you have no real control over your destination.
That ship analogy is just so vivid. It really hammers home how vital, clear, worthy goals are. They're the compass for your life.
Success isn't luck, it's direction.
Okay, building on that idea of purpose, let's bring in a couple more voices. Zig Ziglar had that great line, something like, what you get by reaching your goals isn't as important as what you become.
Yes. That emphasizes the journey, the internal transformation. It's not just about the trophy at the end. It's about the person you grow into while striving for it.
Looking forward, not back. He talked about building a Mustang, not dwelling on the Edsel.
Right. Focus on the future vision. And Les Brown, wow, his story is incredibly powerful on this too.
Yeah.
He talks about needing a vision of my own greatness and absolutely refusing to be limited by other people's labels.
He was labeled educable, mentally retarded as a kid, right?
He was. And his mentor, Mr. Washington, thankfully taught him not to accept that limitation. Les Brown dreamed of being on the radio, talking, playing records. That was his driving vision.
And he made it happen.
He did. He says you have to consciously decide something is your mission and go at it obsessively. You have to stretch way outside your comfort zone. That's what expands your consciousness, lets you achieve things you didn't think were possible.
Taking responsibility, refusing to be defined by others.
Absolutely. It reminds me of that story Russell Conwell tells in Acres of Diamonds.
Oh, the toy maker.
Yeah, the toy maker from Hingham, Massachusetts. This guy was poor, out of work. He started whittling little wooden chains for his kids out of shingles he soaked.
Just to keep them occupied?
Right. But then he noticed what they liked. He used their desires as like market research. Started making other simple toys from firewood.
And it took off.
Big time. He eventually became, according to Conwell, the richest man in old Massachusetts, worth millions. All because he started where you are and what you are, with just a penknife and an observation.
Wow. Talk about acres of diamonds in your own backyard.
Exactly. That story is just a perfect illustration. Action, fueled by a vision, refusing to be limited by circumstances or lack of initial resources. That's how you create success.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What opportunities are right under our noses that we're missing because we're looking somewhere else for something easier or more glamorous?
It's a constant question we should ask ourselves. So the takeaway here, action is crucial. Fuel it with a clear vision and stubbornly refuse to be boxed in by limitations, whether internal or external.
Okay, now let's talk about something most of us try to avoid.
Yeah.
Failure.
Ah, yes, the F word.
But J.K. Rowling, who obviously knows a thing or two about huge success after setbacks, has this really interesting perspective.
What did she say?
She says, basically, it's impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
Wow, that hits hard. Fail by default.
Yeah. And she talks openly about how failure for her brought benefits. It taught her things about herself, gave her inner security, discipline, things she wouldn't have learned otherwise.
That's such a powerful reframe. It connects directly to what Tony Robbins talks about in Unlimited Power.
How so?
About actively looking for the lessons, the potential positive outcomes, in what seems like a setback. Asking that question, what can I learn from this?
Instead of just dwelling on the negative.
Right. It diminishes the emotional weight and actually fosters resilience. It turns an obstacle into a stepping stone for growth. You move forward stronger, wiser.
Okay, so reframing failure is key. And that brings us to maybe an even deeper level with Brené Brown. She talks a lot about the emotions wrapped up in this, especially shame.
Mm-hmm. Vulnerability and shame. Her work is so important here.
How does she define shame?
She defines it as the fear of disconnection. That deep, painful feeling that we're somehow flawed, unlovable, that we don't belong.
And she says we often see vulnerability as weakness, right?
Right. Yes, because we confuse feeling with failing and emotions with liabilities. We try to armor up, pretend we don't feel fear or uncertainty.
But that armor stops us from connecting.
Exactly. And it hinders growth. Brown talks about developing shame resilience.
Okay, how do you do that?
She outlines 4 key elements. First, you have to recognize shame, understand what triggers it for you.
Self-awareness.
Crucial. Second, practice critical awareness reality. Check the negative messages fueling that shame. Are they actually true?
Question the narrative.
Third, reach out. Connect with trusted people for support. Shame thrives in secrecy.
Don't isolate.
And fourth, speak shame. Articulate what you're feeling. Naming it takes away some of its power.
That sounds hard.
It is. She emphasizes that putting down our armor, what she calls the Viking or victim shield we use to protect ourselves, requires real support and actively cultivating new coping strategies. You can't just will it away.
It takes practice and community.
Definitely. It makes you wonder, though, if vulnerability is so vital for connection and growth, how can we build families, workplaces, communities that actually encourage it instead of punishing it?
That is a huge question, a critical one. So the insight here is embracing vulnerability isn't weakness. It's actually the path to real strength, deeper connections, and reclaiming our emotional lives.
It's daring, as she says, but ultimately incredibly rewarding.
So we've talked personal achievement, personal resilience. What happens when these drives meet the public square? Leadership, public service.
How does individual character translate to broader impact?
Exactly. Let's look at Theodore Roosevelt. He had this really clear vision for government's role, didn't he? Something about serving future generations.
Yeah, he believed government should serve the people unborn as well as the people now alive. That's why he pushed so hard for conservation, setting aside national parks and forests, thinking long term.
Beyond the next election cycle.
Way beyond. And his leadership was really rooted in this strong sense of character and justice. He spoke out forcefully against class hatred.
Interesting.
Yeah, he argued for judging each person on his worth as a man, not by their social class or job title.
Treating people as individuals.
Right. He believed strong character wasn't just about individual toughness. It included the power of self-restraint, the power of self-mastery, the capacity to work for and with others as well as for oneself.
So individual strength plus cooperation and self-control.
It's a holistic view. True leadership for Roosevelt wasn't just about ambition or power. It was about integrity, working together, having that long-term vision for the common good.
That really resonates. And then you have John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. Talk about a call to action.
An incredibly inspiring speech.
That famous line, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. But also the part before that where he says, in your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course.
Placing the responsibility squarely on the people.
Yeah. He called on a generation to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle against huge global problems, tyranny, poverty, disease, war, and to do it rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation.
It's such a powerful contrast to just focusing on individual success, isn't it?
Totally.
It's this urgent call for shared responsibility, collective action in a democracy, enduring commitment to big ideals, even when it's hard.
So both Roosevelt and Kennedy, in different ways, show that real societal contribution comes from strong character, thinking beyond yourself, having that long-term vision, and committing to justice and service.
It really makes you think, especially today, in a world that often feels so focused on the individual. How do we recapture that sense of collective purpose, shared responsibility?
That's the challenge, isn't it, for all of us? The insight.
Yeah.
True leadership, real impact, comes from character, vision, and a commitment to collective action for the greater good.
Okay, let's shift focus one more time, maybe go even deeper, to the ultimate control panel, our own minds.
The inner landscape. It's exactly. Tony Robbins talks a lot about how our internal state, what he calls our neurophysiological state, basically dictates everything we do, how we feel, how we perform.
It's a core concept for him, how your body and mind are operating right now.
Can you break that down a bit? How does that work?
Well, Robbins argues, and there's a lot of science behind this now, that positive states, feeling confident, energized, focused, they lead to successful actions. Negative states, fear, doubt, exhaustion, lead to poor performance, failure.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. But where do these states come from?
He says they come from two main sources. One is our internal representations. That's how we visualize things, the stories we tell ourselves, how we interpret events.
Our thoughts, basically.
Our thoughts and mental images, yeah. The other source is our physiological condition, our posture, how we're breathing, muscle tension, diet, sleep.
The body affects the mind.
Massively. Think of it like your computer's operating system. If it's running smoothly, optimized.
Your apps work great.
Exactly. If it's buggy, slow, full of malware, everything grinds to a halt. Our mind-body system is similar.
And he talks about a cycle, right? Beliefs and behavior.
Yes, the cycle of belief and behavior. It's simple but powerful. Negative beliefs, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, lead to tentative actions, which produce poor results, which then reinforces the negative belief.
A downward spiral.
Right. But positive beliefs, I can figure this out, I've got this, lead to confident actions, better results, which then affirms the positive belief, making future success more likely.
An upward spiral. Success breeds success.
Precisely. And Robbins puts the control firmly in our hands. He says, you are the one who decides how to feel and act based upon the ways you choose to perceive your life.
Perception is a choice.
An active choice that shapes your reality.
That's incredibly empowering. It means our internal world isn't just something that happens to us, it's something we can actively manage.
By controlling our states, managing our physiology, choosing empowering beliefs, we can unlock so much potential. We can essentially upgrade our own operating system.
Okay, this idea of mindset shaping reality, it connects perfectly to this next classic story. It shows how our mindset can literally blind us to opportunities right under our feet.
Russell Conwell's Acres of Diamonds, such a great parable.
Tell us the main story about Ali Hafed.
Right. Ali Hafed was this content Persian farmer. Life was good. Then a priest tells him about diamonds, how incredibly valuable they are.
Plants the seed of desire.
Exactly. Ali Hafed becomes consumed with discontentment. He sells his prosperous farm, leaves his family, and wanders the world searching for diamonds.
And does he find them?
Tragically, no. He ends up broke, miserable, and dies in poverty, throwing himself into the sea.
Oh, wow. But the story doesn't end there, does it?
No, that's the kicker. The man who bought Ali Hafed's farm. One day, his camel is drinking from the stream on the property, and the farmer notices a funny-looking rock.
Don't tell me.
Turns out to be a huge diamond. The farm was located on top of one of the richest diamond mines in history, the Golconda mines.
No way. The wealth was right there all along.
Right there. And Connell tells other similar stories, like the professor of mineralogy.
A professor of mineralogy.
Yes, who sold his homestead in Pennsylvania. Years later, the new owner found a massive vein of silver running right through the property. The professor had apparently used a chunk of native silver as a doorstop or something for years without recognizing it.
An expert in rocks missed the silver in his own house.
It's a profound lesson, isn't it? About contentment, about observation, about recognizing the opportunities that often exist right within the sound of your voice, or where you are, as Conwell puts it.
It connects right back to Booker T. Washington's "Cast down your bucket where you are."
Absolutely. Look for the resources, the potential, the acres of diamonds in your current situation, your current relationships, your current skills, before chasing some distant dream.
It really makes you ask, what assumptions am I making about where opportunity lies? What might I be overlooking right here, right now?
That's the question Conwell wants us to ask. The insight is clear. The resources and opportunities we crave are often much closer than we think. We just need the right mindset, the right vision, the willingness to look.
Let's shift now to maybe a more philosophical plane, thinking about how we navigate the tough stuff, emotions, pain, finding meaning. And here, the Stoics offer some really powerful guidance.
Timeless wisdom for dealing with the human condition.
Let's start with Epictetus. Born a slave, became this incredibly influential Stoic teacher. His main work that survived is the Enchiridion, the handbook, with his core message in that.
Epictetus's core message is incredibly liberating, especially given his background. He teaches that true freedom, true tranquility, comes from clearly understanding what is within our control and what is not.
The famous dichotomy of control.
Exactly. What's up to us? Our opinions, our judgments, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, basically our own choices and responses, our inner world.
Okay. And what's not up to us?
Pretty much everything else. Our body, our health, our possessions, our reputation, external events, what other people do or say. All of that is outside our direct control.
So trying to control those external things is futile.
Worse than futile, Epictetus argues. It's the source of all our frustration, anxiety, and suffering. The key to peace is accepting what is outside our control and focusing all our energy on mastering our own inner world, our choices, our judgments, our reactions.
Letting go of the external, taking radical responsibility for the internal.
That's the heart of it, finding power in acceptance and internal discipline.
That is a timeless lesson. And Seneca, another great Stoic, he expands on this, especially around our fear of the future, our fear of death, and how we often fail to really live.
Right. Seneca borrows a quote from Epicurus that just stops you in your tracks. Everyone goes out of life just as if he had but lately entered it.
Meaning we die as unprepared as we were when we were born.
Sort of. It's this idea that we're equally afraid of death and equally ignorant of life. We spend our lives constantly putting off into the future all our undertakings.
Procrastinating on living, basically.
Exactly. We act as if we have infinite time, never really finishing things, never fully engaging with the present.
So what's Seneca's advice?
His core message is urgency. Live now. Finish your undertakings. Fully engage with the present moment. He also points out that death has no degrees of greater or less. It's the same end for everyone.
And that applies to life's difficulties too, right?
Yes. He argues that goods like virtue, resilience, overcoming challenges are equal whether you face an easy road or a rough road. The external circumstances don't determine the value of your internal response.
Which loops right back to Epictetus. Focus on what you can control, your choices, your responses, your effort.
Precisely. Fear, Seneca suggests, often comes from misunderstanding this fundamental point, from trying to control the uncontrollable externals instead of mastering the internal. Your inner state of virtue is what matters, regardless of the circumstances.
So the insight from the Stoics: live with urgency. Focus on your inner world, your choices and judgments, because that's the only thing you truly control. Find strength and meaning in how you respond, especially to difficulties. #Agalion, indifference and memory. This focus on internal response and responsibility brings us to a really difficult but crucial reflection on human nature and our collective choices. Elie Wiesel.
A profound moral voice of our time.
In his conversations, he grapples so intensely with the indifference that surrounded the Holocaust. He couldn't understand how history went mad, how it seemed like it could have been avoided.
That struggle with indifference is central to his work. How could people not know? Or if they knew, how could they not act?
And he talks about his desperation regarding the assault on Jewish memory.
Yes, particularly concerning those who would try to discredit survivors' testimonies, pointing to minor inconsistencies to dismiss the overwhelming truth of the experience, calling it too subjective because the survivors were, well, involved.
As if you could be objective about something like that.
It raises such important, painful questions about how we preserve truth, how we listen to testimony, especially trauma testimony. What is our ethical responsibility as listeners?
To believe,
Mhm.
to safeguard those stories.
It challenges us to really confront the dangers of indifference, of both historical and present day, to question our own assumptions, to value lived experience as a vital form of truth, even when it's incredibly painful or messy.
So the insight from Wiesel.
A profound responsibility to remember, to actively fight indifference in ourselves and our communities, to protect and honor the narratives of human experience, especially those that bear witness to suffering and injustice. Memory becomes a moral act. ###############################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################################
brings maybe a touch of poignant humor and some really simple grounding truths. Kurt Vonnegut.
Vonnegut's wisdom is often wrapped in absurdity, but it cuts deep.
There's that beautiful piece of advice his son Mark gave him, which he shares. Just, Father, we are here to help each other get through this thing, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's so simple, isn't it? But it captures such a fundamental human purpose. Mutual aid, kindness, connection. It gets lost sometimes in all the complexity.
Totally. And Vonnegut was also wary of power, wasn't he?
Very much so. He echoed that old idea, power corrupts us, and absolute power corrupts us absolutely. A constant warning.
And he had that line, a sane person in an insane society must appear insane.
Yes. Which is fascinating. It really resonates with Plato's description of Socrates.
Oh, so?
Well, Socrates was often seen as deeply weird, maybe even insane, by Athenian society because he constantly questioned conventional wisdom, prioritized moral good over wealth or status, focused on things they found unimportant. He didn't fit the mold.
So sometimes being sane or sticking to basic truths makes you look like the odd one out.
Exactly. It's a call to critical thinking, isn't it? Don't just blindly accept the way things are. Question. Challenge when necessary, even if it makes you seem a bit strange.
Even if the truth is as simple as help each other get through this thing.
Especially then. So the insight from Vonnegut. Remember the simple, profound truth of mutual aid. Be vigilant against the corrupting nature of power, and understand that sticking to fundamental human connection and compassion is paramount, even if it makes you seem out of step with an insane world. That's maybe the sanest path of all. #outro.
Wow. Okay. What a deep dive that was.
Yeah.
We've really covered some ground today, haven't we?
We certainly have, from ancient Greece all the way to modern thought.
Yeah, traversing centuries. Thinking about influence with Aristotle's ethos, pathos, logos, and how the Romans like Cicero and Quintilian refined that.
Then dive into achievement, the power of goals with Earl Nightingale, the action-oriented drive of Zig Ziglar and Les Brown.
Inspired by Dale Carnegie's connection skills and that amazing Hingham toy maker.
Right. And then facing adversity, the insights on failure and resilience from J.K. Rowling, the crucial work on vulnerability by Brené Brown.
Leading into that call to public service we saw in Theodore Roosevelt, JFK, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
And finally, exploring that inner landscape, the power of mindset with Tony Robbins, the stoic wisdom of Epictetus and Seneca on control and acceptance.
And those powerful, essential reflections from Elie Wiesel on memory and indifference and Kurt Vonnegut on simple human connection.
It's quite a tapestry. These sources, they seem so different on the surface, but when you weave them together...
They offer this incredible sort of handbook for navigating life, don't they?
They really do. Guiding us to focus not just on, external stuff, but on building character, understanding ourselves, connecting with others meaningfully, cultivating tranquility even.
Yeah, and the insights aren't just interesting historical facts. They feel like living guides, things you can actually use.
Absolutely. They're designed to empower you, the listener, to be a doer, not just a thinker, to take this knowledge and apply it, create the results you want in your own life.
So, as you reflect on all these voices we've heard today, the philosophers, the leaders, the writers, the speakers, maybe consider, how can your own pursuit of a worthy ideal, as Nightingale put it, echo through time? Not just in huge gestures, but in the small, deliberate actions you take every single day.
Yeah. And maybe ask yourself, what's the acre of diamonds in your life right now? What opportunity, what resource, what potential might you be overlooking simply because you're convinced it must be somewhere else?
That's a great question to sit with.
And maybe even more profoundly, how might really internalizing what you can control, like Epictetus taught your choices, your responses, your beliefs, how might that truly liberate you, free you up to pursue your worthy ideal, regardless of whatever challenges the external world throws your way?
Because the wisdom of the past isn't just history.
It's a living guide for your present and for your future, waiting for you to pick it up and use it.